Hi, and welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senapataratna. Today, grab your favorite drink and a snack and we'll get started. Today, I am drinking my favorite thing of all times, which I don't get to drink very often, cherry Coke. I know it's not good for you, but cherry Coke is amazing. And I'm eating some goldfish. Nothing exciting, not real goldfish crackers. Anyway, let's get real. So I have been thinking a lot about my scriptures in my life. And I hang scriptures up all around my house. And maybe I'm the only one that ever reads them. But I have them in my kitchen, in my bathroom, in my hallways. I've put up scriptures to remind me of different things. And we all have our favorite scriptures. I have 3 that are always in my mind. They are always something I meditate on. They're always something I think about. I always quote, love is patient, love is kind, whenever I'm getting irritated at something. When I was full-time working, I said that all the time. Love is patient, love is kind, love is patient, love is kind. Love does not, do whatever I wanted to do at that time. We're not going to go into that. Anyway, one of my favorite Bible verses is, be still and know that I am God. I think about that verse all the time. Be still and know that I am God. To sit in his presence is something we don't do very often. We don't take time to sit still and know that he is God and he's in control. And I don't necessarily need to have a plan. I can stand still and he still loves me and he's still in control. So that's one of the scriptures I've had since I was very young that he reminds me of a lot. I have it up twice in my house. That's how important it is to me. Be still and know that I am God. My other verse is Joshua, which you probably know I love. Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for your God will go with you. Yes, do not be afraid. Be strong and courageous. That's not something I'm very good at. I'm really good at being still and knowing that he's in charge. But being strong and courageous, knowing that God's going to fight the battle for me and that he's in charge and he's going to go wherever I go, is a hard reminder for me. So I have that up around the house too. And because he says be strong and courageous many times in the Bible. So I have several different Bible verses around the house about being strong and courageous. And I don't know what that means for you. I don't know what strong and courageous may mean for you. It means different things to me at different times. Sometimes that means that I just need to stand and be quiet in his presence. And sometimes it means I need to go charge and go take care of something. And I don't like when I have to go and take care of something, because then I feel like, ooh, this is scary. I'm stepping outside my comfort zone. My ultimate verse, so I have those 2, and those 2 really, I will be in the grocery store walking and those will pop in my hand. Be strong and courageous. It's okay. Because sometimes, honestly, when you're, okay, maybe that's a little too honest, but when you're in the dressing room and you're a woman that's my size, you need to be strong and courageous and try on those clothes and not judge yourself for what you look like and keep moving till you find the right thing. Sometimes that's my strong and courageous. I'm sure not a lot of you understand that. But that's okay. You're probably, you're strong and courageous is doing something completely different. But my other Bible verse that I do have up in my house also, and this is the Jenny paraphrase. It's in Proverbs 17:28 if you want to look it up. But it's, even a fool is thought wise if they keep their mouth shut. And that's not the whole Bible verse, but that is the piece that rings over in my head a lot, because I tend to be a rambler. Hey, you're listening to my podcast, right? But fools can be thought wise even if they don't speak. Because when you talk, people know your real thoughts and your real feelings, and you can look pretty foolish. You can look like, oh my, what are you doing? And so when I decided, I don't know if I decided or if I was being strong and courageous and just listening to God and started this podcast, that Bible verse has been ringing through my head like you would not believe, because I don't want to look like a fool. And you know what? I will end up looking like a fool. This is part of life. But fools can be thought wise if they keep their mouth shut. And so that has been kind of my life theme since I was in my 20s and we were at a small church in northern Minnesota. And I just did not understand that concept back then. I shared everything that was on my heart and with anybody I could find. And it got me in a lot of trouble because I did not use wisdom when I was using my words. And I would just share whatever God was working on me with. And I didn't process it. I processed it with other people. And they didn't see my heart and how much I loved God. They just saw my flaws. And it didn't work very well. We were not maybe Kevin was. I was not super loved. Because they thought maybe I was a little crazy. I don't know. So that has really become one of my theme verses, is even a fool is thought wise if they keep their mouth shut. And so I have been thinking about being foolish. And I have done some foolish things in my life. I mean, I know we all have. I have done things that I felt foolish. Maybe they weren't foolish, but I felt like I was being foolish. So let me tell you a little story. So when I was in 7th grade, I joined the musical at my church. So I was in the youth group musical, and it changed my life. It really did. It was super fun. Shout out to those who were with me. Love you still. And we went on a trip out to Colorado and Wyoming. So my very brave youth pastor decided this was a good plan and packed us all up in a big bus, and we drove out to Wyoming and Colorado. And we were in Colorado, and I'm not sure which city we were in. I think it's Denver, but, I'd have to check with somebody else. Because, I was in 7th grade. I wasn't really paying attention to the places. I was paying attention to the people on the bus and beginning to notice boys for the first time. I think I remember that. Anyway, so we were somewhere in Colorado, and I got on this team. So now I need to say a little bit about who I was back then. So when I was in 7th grade, before that, I had one friend, and that was the only person I talked to unless I was asked a question in Sunday school. Other than that, I did not speak. So that I was in a musical was kind of shocking to begin with, because I was super quiet, super timid, and I was so painfully shy. So this trip was a huge stretch for me. First of all, I was with people that I was not friends with and became friends. And I had to talk in front of people because I did have a small speaking part, but I don't remember it. So anyway, we're in this place in Colorado, and I get with a group with a man named Jason. Now, I love Jason to this day. I pray for him and his wife all the time. They became really great friends later. He was my leader, and he was not a quiet, shy guy. He was not quiet. He was not shy. He was outspoken. He was a couple years older than I was, and he was just like, here I am, and notice me. That was who he was. And I was, here I am, please don't notice me. May I stand behind anybody and not be hidden? So they had this great idea that we would go door to door and invite people to come see our play, which I thought, okay, that's fine. But I got with Jason, and I love Jason. But he was like, we're going to do more than just tell them about our play. We're going to tell them about Jesus. And I was like, good for you. Why don't you do that? I'll stand at the end of the driveway and I'll hold the snacks. I got a different plan here. And I will never forget, and I remember what the house looked like, because Jason knocked on the door, pushed me in the front and said, Jenny, share your story with these people. And I remember looking at Jason like, I may never speak to you again. In fact, I'm going to vomit right here. I was so terrified. I felt like such a fool. And really, I was like, hi, my name's Jenny and I love Jesus. I had nothing else to say, And then Jason stepped in and saved the day and talked because he could talk to anybody. But he did that to me twice during that time. And it really changed me that I was like, oh, I can actually talk and not be foolish. But I felt so silly and felt like I don't have anything to say. I was raised in the church. Jason has this amazing testimony of how he came to God. And I'm like, yeah, I got saved in a pew one of the years when I was a little kid and never stopped. I don't really have a story other than that. And I was ashamed of that. You feel foolish. And probably a year and a half ago, I really felt God talking to me about doing something that I just thought that is foolish. That is not something I want to do. That you have scriptures that say, be still and know that I am God. And even a fool is thought wise if he keeps his mouth shut. If I do both of those, I'm not following either of those patterns in my life. But it would be being strong and courageous, knowing that God will go with me. So I was meditating on this. I shared it with a very, very small amount of people, this vision and this goal that I had. I maybe 2 people, and Kevin being one of them, my husband. So I really kept it very close to my heart. And the day happened when my boss let me go via email. And the Lord, I was crying and I was obviously devastated. And the Lord said, it's time. And I was like, okay, it's time for what? Give me awesome. It's time for what, And I knew that he was talking about it's time about this thing I've planted in your heart a year ago. And I was like, yeah, I don't know that it's time. Let me give you the reasons why it's not time. And so I began to argue about, I don't want to look foolish. I don't want to do something. Do you remember when I was in 7th grade and I had nothing to say to those people and Jason had to come in and fix it and make it better? Do you remember that I am not a eloquent theologian? I read my Bible and I get what I get out of it, and I don't necessarily have all the theology behind it, and I don't go back to the Greek or the Hebrew. I don't even know what you go back to. See, that's how little I know about that. The Bible is not something I'm an expert on. I'm not an expert on anything. Like my husband, he's got expertise. He could talk about prayer for 3 weeks and not stop, because that's his expertise and he's so good at it, and he researches things, and he's, and I don't have that, Lord. Do you see this? Here I am, and I have spent all of my life hiding that I'm dyslexic. I am very dyslexic, actually. Maybe some of you will be surprised. I don't know. I love to read, and I love to listen to books. I listen to a lot of books. And that's why I listen to a lot of books, is because I'm very dyslexic. I have a very high level of that, and struggled all my life with reading and with writing, and just everything there has been, it's really held me back from a lot of things. If you don't know what dyslexia is, it's when you switch the words and switch the letters and things. So I've memorized every word. They didn't catch it till I was in 7th and 8th grade that I was dyslexic, because I had memorized every word and memorized how to spell it and memorized what it's supposed to look like. So I will make a sentence what I think it should be. I'm like, oh, that's what it should be. And it takes me a while to go back and go, no, that's not what they said. So obviously my confidence in my Bible knowledge is very low, because I'm, am I making, who knows what's happening? And I really felt like the Lord was like, no, Jenny, I need you to step into this. So 3 days after the fateful email came that I was laid off, I started on the project that God had laid on my heart years before. And I started my first chapter of my book. And I started writing it. And I knew what the premise was. The premise was the women in the Bible that were always in the background. Because I have felt like I have lived most of our marriage in the shadow of my husband, and he is amazing, and it's a big shadow, so I'm okay in the shadow. Remember, I'm the kid that likes to be behind the scenes. I'm a really great admin. I like to be behind the scenes. And so I started writing about women in the Bible that were behind the scenes, like Noah's wife, who doesn't even get a name in the Bible. Like the things that poor woman had to go through. It wasn't Noah that was going through those challenges by himself. His wife was with him. Maybe she didn't build the ark, but she was being made fun of. She had to live with spiders. She had to live with crocodiles. Like, ick. Anyway, so I started writing my book. I do not have a title for it, but I finished the book about a month ago. And I wrote many chapters on different women in the Bible and things that we can learn on them. And I'm super excited. Now I'm in the editing process where now you fix all the mistakes. And so this is where the insecurity comes in, right? Like, first of all, I wrote everything and I wrote it with my viewpoint and my Real Life with Jenny viewpoint. So I'm super excited to share it with you when it comes out. And I haven't got a title, so if you have any ideas on that, that'd be great. But so now we're in the editing process and we're working through all of my quote unquote mistakes and editing it and revamping it and making it better. And it's when all of your insecurities start flooding in. And so I'm standing here and I'm saying, Lord, I am standing still knowing that you are God and you are in control. And I've been strong and courageous. And now I am so fearful because I'm putting myself into a position that I'm really uncomfortable with. I'm really feeling foolish. And so I'm looking back at my life and when I was foolish in the past and I knew that it was something God wanted me to do, God always stepped in. And so what I'm challenging you today is maybe you're not supposed to write a book. Maybe you are. Like, connect with me. Let's chat. I'd love to chat about your book. Anyway, what is God challenging you to be strong and courageous about? And maybe you may look foolish and you're going to step into something that you're uncomfortable with. But what could God do in the midst of your uncomfortable? What can he use you in a different way? I know that the book that I've just written is uniquely mine and uniquely what God has trained me to do. And it's all God and it's not me. But it is definitely the voice that God has given me, which is a little quirky and a little weird. And I look at the Bible a little differently than maybe the average Joe. Like my favorite person in the entire Bible, other than Jesus, of course, and really she's a close second, is Rahab the prostitute. I love the story of Rahab the prostitute. She's someone that normally when I get to go to a church, I preach on her because she has such an amazing story, this woman, Rahab. Someday I'll talk about her, or you can come listen to me somewhere preaching because she is just amazing. But it's just a unique way of looking that I know God's given me. So what has God given you? What is God asking you to do right now in your life that's a little bit bigger than you? Because we both know that writing a book is much bigger than me with all of my insecurities. What is God calling you to do beyond what you're doing right now? Where do you need to be strong and courageous? And maybe where do you need to be silent and still knowing that he's God? Or are you acting like a fool and people don't think you're wise? You know, I think we need to use our words carefully, but I also think we do need to use our words and be strong and courageous. So having those 3 scriptures in my life have really created quite a balance for me that I'm very cautious, but I'm also now I'm not standing in front of you because you can't see me, but I'm behind this microphone going, I've written a book. I'm really excited. You're the only ones I'm sharing this with, other than the very select handful that knew before this podcast, that God is going to do something great. Even if 3 people read it, I know that God's going to do something great with it. And I'm just going to encourage you one more time. What should you be doing? What should you be doing with this time, this season in your life? Should you be encouraging your neighbor that has little kids and you're a little bit beyond that? Should you be stepping next to somebody who you know is going through some relationship struggles? Do you need to find someone that financially needs some help because you don't? You're secure right now and you can help someone financially and make a huge difference in their life? Should you be starting a blog? Should you be, I could list off 100 things, going for the next promotion. Should you be stepping in? What are you supposed to step into? That's really all that I have to say today, and maybe that was too much. So you can find me on Facebook and on Instagram for Real Life with Jenny. I would love to have you join me there, or you can join me on christconnection.cc/Jen, and you can find my email and everything fun there. Please share this with your friends, or maybe your enemies, whichever. Let's just share this. Sharing is caring is what they say. And thank you for all of your support, and I cannot wait to get my book out to you so you guys can tell me what you think, and we'll get going from there. You all have a wonderful week, and continue to seek after what God has. Be strong and courageous, and be still and know that He is God. And remember, even a fool is thought wise when they keep their mouth shut.